Hi, my name is Rachel and you're watching the Rachelistic channel. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about PDA, and I don't mean public displays of affection. What I mean is pathological demand avoidance. So this is something that I've been hearing about a lot lately on social media and like TikTok mainly. And anyways, the first time that I heard about it, I was like, that's not me. I don't have pathological demand avoidance. Like, what? No. But then I heard it again, and it started making a little bit more sense. And the more I heard about it, the more I was like, I should look into this, because this is sounding a bit like me. And once I researched it, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely me. So I'm here to share with you what I've learned, and maybe you'll learn something new about yourself, or maybe you'll just learn something new. So let's learn about pathological demand avoidance. So pathological demand avoidance was first coined by Elizabeth Newson in 1983. So she was a professor of psychology at the University of Nottingham in England. So she used the term to describe a group of children that she had seen for an assessment, and they all kind of had the same like traits. And so she described PDA as being under the umbrella of PDD, so like pervasive developmental disorders. So like at the time, there was still like the separate diagnoses, I guess, of autism. So there was autism, there was Asperger's, there was PDD, there was Rett syndrome, all these things. And so the way that she thought about PDA was that it could possibly be like its own separate diagnosis like those other things. But currently, PDA is just seen as a profile of autism. And so by profile, they mean like a cluster or a group of traits that describe some autistic people. It's kind of like a personality of autism or a profile of autism, or just, yeah, a profile of autism. And so previously, it has only mainly been discussed in the UK, but now because of like social media and stuff, people are talking about it more, and like it's being discussed more in other countries other than just the UK. So as people have been talking about this more and learning more about it, some people don't like to use the term pathological demand avoidance just because the word pathological, it has such like a negative connotation to it, which I agree with. But the one like alternative phrase I guess I saw used for it was extreme demand avoidance, which some people like to use. I felt like it was kind of along the same lines of pathological, but that's just me. I know that there's another term that people use, but I don't remember what it is, and I wasn't able to find it. So if I find it, I will put it on the screen here. But yes. But since PDA is like still quite new, it's still being researched, so there's not like a ton of information about it. People are still learning about it to this day. Some people don't believe that PDA is even a real thing. When I was researching anyways, some people were like, it doesn't seem like it's a real thing. There could be lots of reasons for people having demand avoidance or whatever, but I don't know. When I was researching it, it made sense to me. I saw it a lot in my life, so I think that it is a real thing. So a lot of people think that it's a real thing. So yeah. So what is pathological demand avoidance? Like, what is it? What is the definition? So the definition is a profile that describes those who avoid everyday demands and expectations to an extreme extent. And it's most often seen with autism. So that is the definition. So there are 6 key features of PDA, and so these key features basically kind of describe like what PDA is, what it looks like in a person that has this profile. It can also help with like trying to figure out if you think you have PDA. There's like a whole website like dedicated to PDA. So it's called the PDA Society, and this is where I got like the majority of my information from. So if you want to check out the website for yourself, I will link it in the description below so that you can see and find all the resources and information that they have, because it's a really good website. So I got these 6 key features from them, and they are, like I said, the key features that can help you to like determine whether or not, I guess, you have PDA. And so what they said was that if like the majority of these things like apply to you, then you most possibly have a profile of PDA autism. If only like 1 or 2 things apply to you, then it's probably not PDA, but you could still be dealing with like demand avoidance. It's just not a pathological demand avoidance, which I don't really know what that would look like, but yeah. So before I get into these 6 key features, I just want to note that PDA is a spectrum, so it looks different from person to person. So it can be externalized, and so like the traits and like the avoidance is very like obvious. It's like overt. It can be like physical, aggressive, controlling, like it's very in your face, like you can easily see it. But it can also be internalized, and so like the avoidance is more happening in your head, and it's like, or you're like resisted quietly, and there's like a lot of like anxiety involved. I mean, there's anxiety involved anyways, but like it's just a very like internal, like in your head experience versus an externalized presentation, I guess, is like it's more outwardly experienced. So that is important to keep in mind as I go through these 6 features. Okay, so we are ready. So the first feature is resists and avoids the ordinary demands of life. So the ordinary demands of life, those are things like the daily tasks and things that you need to do every day. So that can be like making and going to appointments or meetings, showering, brushing your teeth, like putting on clothes, using the bathroom, eating food. Like these are all like, just things that you do that you need to do every day. So these types of things, like it can be easy to do one day, like taking a shower, for example. Like one day it might be really easy for you to take a shower, but then the next day it's like really difficult, and you feel yourself like trying to avoid it or like resist it a lot. It's not always like every single day it's like you're struggling, but some days it can be easy and some days it's really hard. The big thing about this key feature is that like, so these things, like these demands are like avoided because they are demands. It doesn't always have to be because something makes it unpleasant or aversive. It's like just the fact that it is something that you have to do is what makes you want to resist it like the most. Obviously other things can be included into that mix, but the biggest thing is the fact that it is a demand. And so, as I said before, the like avoidance is often met with a lot of anxiety, and avoiding things can even be things that you enjoy doing. Like even if it's like a hobby or like a special interest or something, like if you feel like you have to do it, then it's like you don't want to do it anymore. So the second key feature is uses social strategies as a part of the avoidance. So that basically means that we would use a variety of strategies to try to get out of doing whatever it is that you need or are supposed to be doing. So that could be things like using distractions, excuses, refusal, threats, or like entering into like role play or like a fantasy imagination thing. And so avoidance typically happens in stages, with the different stages based on your level of anxiety. So they have this image or chart, I don't know, that is used to kind of like explain like these like the stages of like avoidance, I guess. So I'll put it up on the screen. And so as you can see, so at the lower end of the triangle is obviously like a lower level of anxiety. The higher you go up, the, I guess, more intense the avoidance becomes. So at the bottom, you're like calm, you don't have any anxiety, you're able to do things. But as you start having like a little bit of anxiety, then you might start using like distraction or excuses or procrastination to like avoid the task that you have to do. So as you have more anxiety, it will go up to things like physical incapacitation. I literally can't say that right. Incapacitation. I feel like that's not how you say it. Incapacitation. There you go. Withdrawal into fantasy and reducing meaningful conversation. I don't remember seeing that one. So as you go up into even more anxiety, then the avoidance kind of strategies look like maybe taking control instead of like not doing or trying to find a way of not doing the task. You just take control over everything so that like you are fully in control, or you would kind of like give up and just comply and just do whatever people want you to do without wanting to do it. Like you just, I don't even know what the word is, but you just kind of just give into it, which can later lead to a breakdown. And then if you are at like the tippity top of anxiety and you reach like panic, then you can have like a fight, flight, or freeze or fawn reaction. And so that could look like you being really upset, being agitated. You might self-harm, you might shut down, you might have aggression, you might try running away. It's just like you're just like at the tippity top of your anxiety, which turns into panic, and you just cannot. So yeah, so those are the stages of kind of how avoidance can like increase, or like the not increase, but those are the like stages of the different avoidance strategies, which can change based on your anxiety level. So the third key feature is appears sociable on the surface but lacks depth and understanding. So I feel like this one is like just autism. But I mean, that's just me, but it just sounds a lot like autism and just having like difficulties with like social communication and social cues and stuff like that. But what they kind of described this as was like having strong or good verbal abilities, but difficulties with social pragmatic use of language. So like you can talk really well, or you have a really good vocabulary, but like you don't quite understand like the social dynamics when it comes to speaking, I guess, or speaking with people. It can also look like having difficulties in social communication, which I literally just said. But difficulties in social communication that aren't super obvious. So like you might be able to like have a conversation with somebody, but it's like maybe a very one-sided conversation. People might not be able to notice it like immediately, but maybe as you start talking with them, then they start to notice that something might be a little bit off, as a neurotypical person might say. But yeah, just that like your social communication is not quite the same as theirs. So yeah. And this can also look like struggling to acknowledge or understand like social hierarchies. So like for example, if you were a child, maybe you saw yourself like as an adult like on the same social hierarchical level as an adult. Like you didn't see a difference between the two of you. Like you often just don't really see the differences between like you and like someone who might be higher or lower than you on a social hierarchy. So like maybe your boss or a teacher or children or friends, you just see yourself all on the same level instead of like different levels. And then another thing is that you might copy or mimic social interactions to fit in. So this is just like masking. If you mask in order to communicate socially with people, then yeah, that is definitely a part of that. The last thing that this could look like is controlling or dominating when you feel like you are not in control. So the fourth key feature is experiences excessive mood swings and impulsivity. And so, yes, this is where we come back to the externalizers versus the internalizers. So if you have an external, I guess, presentation of PDA, then this would look like having big or yeah, having like big mood swings that are very obvious, like really big bursts of emotion. Maybe if you're angry, you're yelling, you're screaming. If you're sad, you're like sobbing your eyes out. Like it's very, very obvious. But if you have an internal presentation of PDA, then it's going to be a lot less obvious. If you're sad or angry, you might just become really quiet and withdrawn. And it's like you're feeling all of these emotions inside, but you're not really showing it. You're not really showing it on your face. It's just like all like inside of your head or inside of you, basically. And you just become like really quiet and withdrawn. And people might not really understand what's going on with you. But I mean, they probably don't understand what's going on with you anyways. I mean, maybe I won't say that, but yeah. And so basically these mood swings are like fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses that are triggered by seemingly small things. So like to like neurotypical people or just people that don't understand autism or PDA, the things that maybe will upset you a lot seem like really small things. So the fifth key feature is obsessive behavior, often focused on other people. So this is basically talking about like special interests and hyperfocus. So basically your special interests tend to be people or just social in nature. So it could be like your special interest could be like a friend or like a character in like a TV show or a book or something, or a celebrity or your sibling or like some person in your class that you have a crush on. I don't know. It could be, like anyone really. But basically it's saying like your special interests tend to be like people or just like social in nature. So like about social things. And this can also look like having like clingy or controlling behavior again. So maybe you really like stick or like cling to certain people, or maybe you just like to like control the people around you. Another part of this key feature is that other people's like routines and schedules make you like avoidant and like anxious and stuff, but you're able to follow your own routines and schedules like in your own time, in your own way. But it's like when other people give you things to do or like set out a schedule or time frame for you, it's like ew. But if you do it yourself, then it's like, yeah, I can do this, but I'm gonna do it in my own way. And then the last key feature is appears comfortable in role play and pretend, sometimes to an extreme extent. And so this key feature isn't always present and it's not an essential key feature. So like if you don't have this key feature, then it's not like a big deal. It's not like, oh, you definitely cannot be PDA if you don't have this key feature. It's not like that. It's just kind of something that sometimes is there in some people and but it can also not be present in other people. Yeah, but basically like by like role play and like pretend, it's just like you like maybe okay, I used to do this a lot when I was younger, but like just like pretending that you are someone else or like in a story or in a different place to like, I don't know, just I mean it can to help you get through a tough time, but it could also just be just for fun, I guess. But it's like something that comes very easily and naturally to you is kind of what this key feature is about. And then when they say like sometimes to an extreme extent, that can be like you're literally like pretending to live as another person or an animal for like a long time. So I feel like this kind of applies like, sometimes I don't know if everybody sees these things. Sometimes I see like videos or like news stories about like adults, like this adult is like living as a baby, or this one is living like a cat, and I feel like this is what it means by like that's like the like most extreme version of this. Yeah, but maybe those people have PDA. That's a really interesting thought. So those are all of the key features of PDA. Okay, so as you can see, I'm wearing different things, it's looking different, but that is because I decided to split this video into two. As I was editing, I realized that this video was going to be way too long if I kept it all in one video, so I decided to split into two. So yeah, so what you just watched was the first half of our video on PDA. I hope that you found this first half pretty interesting and informative, and I hope that you learned something new. The next half will be all about the different types of demands and some tips on how to live your life with PDA. So that is basically it for this video. If you liked it, then please hit the like button so that it can spread to more people. If you have anything that you would like to say, then just comment it down below. Yeah, because it's nice to see the things that you guys have to say. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, just comment it down below. And finally, if you enjoy watching my videos, then go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when I post my next video, which will be about PDA again. So if you're not already subscribed, now is the time to do it. Okay. Well, as always, stay ritualistic, or whatever your name is istic, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.